Active Matter is a PvPvE stalker-like extraction shooter, kind of like Tarkov, but with anomalies, terrifying mutants, and artifact hunting, with the addicting gameplay loop of loading up, going into raid, and extracting with valuable loot. And yes, it's about as good as it sounds. Let's talk about it. Active Matter is currently in closed beta, but I got to spend a considerable amount of time playing it, and let me tell you, I was more than impressed, with its biggest standout being the absolutely incredible world building this game is doing, immersing me more than the last game that had me sucked in this much, which was Escape From Tarkov, the mother of all extraction shooters, and it's something I haven't been this excited for in the FPS space in a really long time. But with the game being published by Gaijin Entertainment, the same people who are responsible for the predatory and, let's be honest, less than savory ways they chose to monetize their biggest title, War Thunder, will Active Matter just be another great game put onto the chopping block because massive companies like this don't know how to keep their greedy fingers out of your pocket? Or will they give us a polished and microtransaction-free extraction shooter? They could literally just charge a one-time fee of having access to all of their content like the good old days of gaming, providing an experience that, in my opinion, would be well worth 40, even 50 bucks based off of the many hours I've already played. Well, I unfortunately have a few reasons to believe the former, but first I want to get into what I like about this game and what I absolutely hate, and give it a rating 1 through 10 overall, and let you guys know if Active Matter is worth paying attention to, so stick around for that. First off, I want to get into things that really struck a chord with me, and that this game truly feels like a marriage of Stalker and Tarkov in a way that doesn't feel gimmicky and weird, and throwing some Hunt Showdown in there as well due to the beautiful sound design and the horror elements immersing you into the world even more. It works so well, and they play it off in unique ways, like one of the many maps in the game being set in a dilapidated city in Africa, which is refreshing being that so many of these types of games are always set in a post-Soviet apocalyptic world. But the thing is, most of the maps still are in that setting, so for anybody who never gets tired of the apocalyptic Soviet charm like myself, will have plenty to enjoy still, but with other maps that experiment and step out of that realm. And speaking of realms, the idea of the game is that you are an operator sent to do experiments and complete missions in an alternate dimension. You have a machine that teleports you to this world in different areas, and is the reason the story can justify such a variety of them, being that you are sent to the most anomalous and dangerous zones in this alternate dimension. From what I've seen, these maps rotate about 4 or 5 at a time, which is genius, making it so Active Matter can have multiple different maps and different game modes on those maps without splitting up the player base too much. I think this will help them add more and more maps going into the future, instead of being held to only having a few that players can choose from all of the time. That being said, it is a compromise for those who like to stick to only one map during their time in these types of games, but ultimately helps move the player base around and out of their comfort zone, and gives me a feeling of variety in this game. The PvP felt pretty good overall also. There are plenty of traps and terrifying monsters in the zone, alerting you to enemy presence fairly often, so if you're looking for a fight, you can probably find it if you can get there fast enough, and the TTK is fast if you can land good shots without feeling too quick or even too spongy. This game being in a closed beta definitely made the matches feel a little dead at times, but overall I've been able to find players and have had some pretty great fights. The armor system boils down to a chest plate and 2 leg plates, and you can choose either steel or another material that is more expensive but has more protection that you can repair for a cost at the end of each raid, which helps with their already streamlined loadout system. You can click on empty attachment slots on weapons and buy the available items needed right from that interface without leaving your stash space, which makes gearing up and getting back in a raid very quick and not too complicated. The trade-off here is that the customizability options are not nearly as in-depth as a game like Tarkov, and leaves things to desire at times for the tactical Barbies out there that would like to specialize things like pistol grips, stocks, and handguards, because in this game currently you cannot. The world is beautiful in Active Matter. The game runs smoothly on a 3060 recording and streaming at the same time, so needless to say it's optimized well, besides some random stutters here and there that seem to go away after a raid or two. What I love about the environment in this game is the lighting. It's dark when it's supposed to be dark, like at nighttime or inside poorly lit buildings, and is normally populated with dormant monsters that can easily swarm and overwhelm you if you aren't careful. The creatures are absolutely terrifying and had me screaming like a little girl when they were able to take advantage of me in the middle of a reload and sent me running for my life. They even have an SPC type monster that only appears if you knock over any carefully placed stones it might have set up inside of a dark building, and showing up as as a stone mannequin, getting closer and closer to your position every time you might look away from him. A great touch in an already stressful environment. I think that the creatures in this game are creative and great fun, but I could see myself getting a little tired of them, being that they feel a little densely populated and can make it challenging to run clever flanks in a PvP type situation. Also, I think there should be more variety of monsters so I don't get tired of shooting the same flower person over and over again, raid after raid. Now, don't get me wrong, these AI sentries are meant to act as alarm systems so that players can't just scuttle around the entire map undetected. But sometimes when I get into an intense situation with another player, I'd like to at least make some sort of play without getting overwhelmed by 50 flower men and like 100 demonic dogs that just appear out of some portal and try to overwhelm you. It's not that much, but damn, it feels like a lot, that's for sure. Speaking of the maps, how you extract from them is also interesting. It seems that when you get into a raid, most of the extracts are timed or locked behind an important quest you might have accepted, making it so players don't just run to loot spots and quickly run out, or that you must travel a certain way if you are to complete an important main quest and want to extract shortly after. I think this adds more flow to the map and encourages movement throughout it. That being said, one of the things I hate about this game are the quests themselves. So many of them are fetch quests or kill a certain creature with a certain gun, and they repeat one after another just like this. I don't know if this is something they're going to expand on going into the future, but holy crap, this can get repetitive. There are secure containers in the game, but they are consumable, meaning that if you die, all the items inside are teleported back to your stash and the container is destroyed, making it so you have to buy a new one. I like this as an option because containers in Tarkov feel like something that is a bit of a cheese at times, being that there's no risk to having a container. In Active Matter, you may get to keep all of your valuable items that you can fit inside, but there is still a financial risk if you do happen to die. This game is very slow paced and your character moves like someone who's covered head to toe with a hazmat suit, guns and ammunition and tactical armor, rewarding more tactical gameplay and angles instead of arcadey fast-paced movement. That being said, the ammunition is far too heavy and you need to bring a full chest rig of mags and a backpack of ammo just to survive the waves of AI in the raid, making it impossible to loot until you expend all of your ammo or find a bigger bag. Tactical leaning can be spammed also and has your character moving far too quickly when you're flip-flopping side to side. You can play in teams of 3 or as a solo, and I do think playing solo is still a viable playstyle. There are just so many AI alerting you of other players either in the distance or when they're trying to flank. It is easy enough to adjust your playstyle accordingly, and the TTK isn't too punishing that you can't take out a trio if you have to. Shooting in this game is definitely weird. The guns feel good and weighty, but I'm being told it's like old Tarkov with a ridiculous amount of screen shake and screen recoil. It's almost as if the more you shoot, the more your character just tilts his head down to the floor, making it really hard to see anything if you are to full auto with any sort of weapon. I'm not sure if they will change this going into the future, but for now it seems like the only thing you can do really is single fire unless you are in extreme close quarters combat. Active Matter already has a team deathmatch mode, kind of like Tarkov does with Arena, where you can earn money and rewards, except in Active Matter, some of their maps have these unique gravitational anomalies that have you standing on a ceiling fighting other players on the ground you were just on, making for this trippy and mostly disorienting first-person experience. It's not overdone and is a fresh idea to a game like this, so I happen to love it. But damn, is it a trip when you try to make a play from this. And that leads me to how they are going to monetize. Well, at the moment, nobody really knows, but there are clues. Like with the 3 different currencies: monolith tokens used to level up and unlock blueprints to powerful items, credits, which act more like traditional money to buy things from a market, and something called chrono traces you can use to unlock the ability to craft items, which tells me, like any other game that has multiple currencies, this is only to provide some way of buying them with real money, calling it something the gaming industry has coined pay for convenience. But we all know is just another way to say you can use real money for ammo, gear, any type of weapon you would like to buy, which is a slippery slope I've been seeing lately. One game that comes to mind is Arena Breakout Infinite, which totally throws the risk versus reward aspect out the window for me, knowing that anything I can find can just be bought with real money. But as it stands, even in a closed beta, the game is a solid 7.5 out of 10 for me, and would be an easy 9 if they could add more depth to the story and quests you have to do, and a more in-depth progression system overall that can keep players busy for longer. In my opinion, is Active Matter something you should keep your eye on? Well, It depends. If you're the type of person who really loves Tarkov, but is also super into the sci-fi elements of Stalker and the beautiful sound design and world building of a game like Hunt Showdown, I would say 100% you should keep your eye on this game. But we have to be cautiously optimistic here, especially with the very, very poor monetization strategies that this publisher has tried in the past. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Active Matter. Thank you for watching and have yourselves a very nice day.